Hi, I'm Roberta. Welcome to my kitchen. Today we're in Liguria and we're going to make a classic Ligurian bread, also popular in Tuscany, though Lucio assures me it belongs in Liguria, called Focaccia. Now there's a lot of fluffy, tasteless rubbish out there. Did I say that? Yes, rubbish. That goes under the name of Focaccia. But an authentic Focaccia, Lucio tells me, is like Liguria's answer to pizza. It's not particularly thick, it has a lovely open texture, and the important things are plenty of olive oil, which Lucio's mother's recipe uses more olive oil than any I've seen, and I'm convinced that's part of the secret. And Lucio's recipe uses a lot more water than many recipes I've seen, so we want quite a soft dough to start with. I do think proving it for a couple of hours is important too. So what's in Focaccia? Flour, yeast, olive oil, good delicate olive oil, either a Ligurian or a lovely delicate Australian olive oil, and some water. That's pretty much it. Then you can top it, within reason, with whatever you want. So the first thing we need to do, I have some yeast and a tiny pinch of sugar here. I'm just going to add some of our water to get it activated. Set it aside for about 15 minutes. If it's a particularly cold day, I like to warm the bowl up with some hot water first, tip that out, then put the yeast in so that when the water goes in it stays warm, because that helps the yeast activate, and then we'll get mixing. So after about 15 minutes, our yeast has gone nice and frothy, so it's going into the bowl with the flour, in with the rest of our water, a good pinch of salt, half of our oil, and you could certainly mix this by hand, but I'm a lazy cook when it suits me. This is going onto the electric mixer with a dough hook for about 5 minutes to do all the hard kneading work, and then we'll rest it. So after about 5 minutes, we've got a nice, soft, sticky dough like this. I'm going to just put a little bit of olive oil on it so that I can manage it. Not too much. Rub that onto the surface. There we go, and that's going to make it possible for me to just shape it into a nice little ball. We'll give it just a little more oil because we don't want it sticking to the bowl, and just coat it in the oil and then pop it into the bowl. Cover it with a clean cloth, pop it in a sunny spot. I often find the sunniest spots in the middle of the kitchen floor, so wherever your sunny spot is, I like to let it rise for a good 2 hours, but obviously it depends on the time of year and the temperature. It's not going to hurt it if it's rising for 3 or 4 hours. Let's see what happens. So after a couple of hours, our dough's doubled in size. We're just going to oil a baking dish quite generously. Now, it could be a rectangular one like this, it could be a round one, whatever you've got. And we do want to give it a good coating of olive oil, because this bread is all about the olive oil, along the sides as well as on the base. Pop that out of the way for a moment, and let's have a look at our dough. There we go. It's doubled. It's a bit sticky on the bottom, but that's fine. Now the top is dry and the bottom isn't. So what I like to do is get it out of the bowl and put it dry side down on the bench. Then you can either roll it with an oiled rolling pin. I don't think we need to introduce any more flour at this stage. So you can roll it out with a rolling pin, but I find it's actually easier just to stretch it out. We just want it to be about the same size as our baking dish, so whether that's round or rectangular. And then we're going to pop it into the baking dish and just move it around until it fits. But as I said, dry side down, soft side up. Now traditionally, you go in with your fingers and make dimples. If, like me, you have nails, that doesn't work so well. So you can use a spoon, or I just go in with my knuckles. And you need to press those dimples in quite deeply, because we're going to use those to trap some of the olive oil that we're going to pour over the top of this before we bake it. Now we want to cover this, set it aside for another 30 minutes or so, just so it starts to come back up. Then we'll oil it, salt it, and pop it in the oven. While our dough's rising for the second time, I've popped the oven on. We want to get that nice and hot, 220 degrees. Here's our focaccia dough. It's just puffed up a little bit more. We've still got those dimples there. So now we're going to pour the rest of our olive oil over it. And remember, this is all about the olive oil. And brush that on so it goes into those dimples. And this is going to give us that gorgeous, crisp, golden crust. Now the other thing we want, this dough doesn't have any salt in it other than a little pinch, so it needs plenty of salt for flavour. So now we're going to generously sprinkle the salt across the top and pop it in the oven. At this stage, if you wanted to, you could put some rosemary on top, some black olives, the beautiful Ligurian Tagliacci olives, potato. Lucio tells me they often put thin slices of potato on top, or even some red onion. In Tuscany they use grapes, but I don't think that's so Ligurian. So let's pop this in the oven, see what comes out. So here we are, after 20-25 minutes in the oven, depends on your oven, depends on the day. Beautiful focaccia. I'm going to let it cool down just a little bit, then we'll take it out of the tray and slice it and eat it. I think nothing beats focaccia hot from the oven, so I don't want it to cool down too much. It really is best eaten fresh the day it's made. It stores well in the fridge, but then I think you want to toast it after that day. You can also make great croutons out of it, or even breadcrumbs. But you can wrap up the leftovers, leave them in the fridge for several days, just slice them and toast them. But we don't need to do that because we've got a beautiful and fresh, look, we've got a nice open crumb. That's what we want. It's nice and moist. You can serve it with some salumi. We're going to dunk it into our calamari dish. It'll be great alongside soups. It's just beautiful. And it smells, it's so simple, but it smells so lovely. Enjoy your focaccia. Buon appetito.